everybody, welcome back to my kitchen. My name is Emily. I'm the registered dietitian here at Harvest Market, and I'm back with another recipe for this week's meal kit. We are doing sweet and sour chicken. So I decided this because, I feel like this time of year we get a lot of decadent foods. We do a lot of, typically like mashed potatoes and ham and all that stuff. So anyway, I crave some different flavors this time of year and in kind of the off times of celebrating. So we're doing this really easy sweet and sour chicken recipe with a homemade sweet and sour sauce, just a few other ingredients. It's really simple, and yeah, it doesn't take any time at all. And the other thing is too, I want easy stuff in between the celebrations because I feel like there's a lot of prep involved with some of our more celebratory dinners and things like that, or brunches. So I want to do something really simple, and this really couldn't be easier. So what we're gonna need is, we're gonna need a pan preheating. I have my pan preheating over medium heat. We need a cutting board and a knife. We need a couple, I like to use a wooden spoon and spatula for raw chicken, and then one for my veggies. I've got a grater zester. This is gonna be for our ginger, totally optional. Some tongs. We're gonna have a bowl. This is gonna be for our chicken. And then the rest of the stuff I provide to you if you have a meal kit. So let's get started, shall we? First things first, what we're gonna do is we're gonna prep our chicken. So I'm gonna move my veggies out of the way here. And we're simply gonna toss our chicken in a little bit of cornstarch. So I'm gonna plop my cubed chicken. It's already cut for you if you got the meal kit. If you are watching and you don't have the meal kit and you maybe wanna recreate this recipe, simply just cube up some chicken breasts. That's what I did. Okay, so I'm gonna take just some paper towel and I'm gonna pat this dry. And what this is gonna do is allow the cornstarch to stick to the chicken a lot better. So the cornstarch will give us kind of a little crispy coating, really light though, really, really light. So we're not doing a deep fried chicken, but we're doing a little crispy coating just to give us, some nice texture on that chicken. It's so much less messy though than deep fat frying, and nice and light. So we have this cornstarch here, little cornstarch, little pepper. I'm just going to toss that in there. I have my tongs. I'm just gonna toss my chicken. Now, it's not gonna be like fried chicken, okay? It's just gonna get a little crispy on the outside. And it'll help the sauce to really stick to the chicken. Otherwise, it'll just kind of slide off. Okay, so we're gonna toss that. Beautiful, so that's what it's gonna look like, just like this. Then we have some oil. We're gonna add half of our oil to the preheated pan. We're gonna save the rest of our oil for the vegetable part. So I'm gonna add half my oil right in there, maybe a splash more. It's okay, it doesn't have to be perfect. And we do want maybe a touch more, just a touch more of oil for the chicken. Okay, now we're gonna start putting this in here. Now, I like to start kind of one piece at a time, and this allows me to see if my pan is hot enough. So it should sizzle when it hits the pan, but it shouldn't splatter. So we should have a nice sizzle going on. You should kind of see it bubbling around the edges a little bit. So I like to test one piece to see if my temperature is right, and then I can adjust according to that. Okay, so I got a nice little sizzle going on. That's what I want. So now I'm just gonna plop the chicken pieces right in. I wanna spread them out so that they get some love from the bottom of the pan and they're not all clumped together. If you have any pieces that are kind of stuck together, you can work with it later on in the cooking process with your wooden spoon or spatula or whatever cooking utensil you're using. Okay, almost there. This might be the longest part of the process, just getting the chicken into the pan, honestly. It goes pretty quick after that. Okay, and the great part is about this recipe too, is while I'm gonna keep my tongs close by because I might use them. I'm just gonna kind of work to swirl the oil around the pan a little bit, just to get all the pieces kind of coated. So again, the great thing about this recipe is that while one thing is cooking, you can work on the rest. So I'm gonna work on just prepping the veggies. I'm gonna show you my really quick way on how to cut up a red bell pepper, or any bell pepper really. So what we're gonna do is cut the top right off. We're just gonna pull out the inside, okay? Pull out just that kind of seed bundle, whatever you wanna call it. And then, you know, just kind of rip off any like white pieces or any other seeds that are hanging out in there. So from here, we're gonna go ahead and cut this guy in half. Then we have 2 pieces, just like this. And then I'm gonna cut these pieces into thirds or fourths, depending on how big your bell pepper is. And then from there, we're gonna cut each of those kind of long pieces into cubes. And then we have our cut bell pepper. So I like to do cubes for this. That's kind of what you typically get in a sweet and sour chicken. But if you want it smaller, totally up to you. So I needed to do 4 pieces on that side. Just kind of get them about as equal as you can, but it doesn't have to be perfect. That's my really foolproof way. It's so fast too, it's really nice. Don't forget the top. Simply discard the stem, but the top is totally edible. So I just cut this guy up and toss it along with everything else. Okay, same thing with the green bell pepper, works the same exact way. We're just gonna slice off the top, pull out the middle. Sometimes it's big, sometimes it's small, just depending on the pepper. Cut that in half, cut it into slices, and to cubes. And everything can kind of be tossed together because they're all going in at the same time. Beautiful. Easy peasy. Again, don't forget about the top. I'm just gonna pop out kind of the stem right here. This is edible. Toss that little guy. And you have really little waste, which is great. Excellent. Okay, we're gonna take a look at our chicken, see how it's browning. We want a nice brown on one side before flipping. Should be at a nice little sizzle there. Perfect noise. Just a nice, gentle sizzle going on. That means we're getting nice and crispy, which is what we want. Okay, so now we're gonna cube up our onion. So I just cut the bottom off, and we're gonna leave the stem side intact. And I'm doing cubes, so I'm gonna cut this guy in half. And then from here, what I'm gonna do is I'm just going to kind of give some big cuts that way, and then slice it through. And then I have some nice cubes, okay, to match up the size of my bell peppers. Really the key is just to get everything about the same size so that they cook relatively the same. If you want smaller pieces, you do you. It's your kitchen. Take the peel off the outside. Chicken's looking really good. I love when I can prep one thing, add it to the pan. Prep the next thing, add it to the pan. Just makes cooking so nice and easy and seamless. It's wonderful. Okay, so our veggies are ready. Let's take a look at our chicken. I might adjust the heat. So I talk about this in another video as well, but whenever we are, you know, cooking things in the pan, a lot of foods have water in them. And when we add heat, they excrete, and, you know, seasoning and whatnot, they excrete water. And so we need to adjust the heat of the pan to accommodate that extra water in there. A lot of times the pan will cool down on you. So just, you know, make note of that and adjust as necessary. Make sure we have that really nice, beautiful, steady sizzle. So I like to use tongs to flip to the other side. I've got just a nice light brown coating on that bottom side that's been cooking. That's exactly what I'm looking for before I'm flipping. So I just want a nice light brown to let me know the chicken is cooked. And oh my gosh, it smells good, and it's just pepper and chicken and a little oil, but still, oh my gosh, once we add this sauce to the pan, it is just gonna smell so stinking good. Okay, do a flip. Okay, and then just let this go for another couple minutes till the other side is browned. Okay, so my chicken is pretty much ready to go. It has just been, I've just let it lie. So the really couple keys is to just leave it alone and let it cook. If we keep moving it around in the pan, it's not gonna have that contact with the bottom of the pan and it's not gonna brown properly. So make sure that you just let it lie, leave it be. We do a nice flip so that it can get cooked on the other side. The other thing that I wanted to mention too is if you're doing tofu with this, it's really the same process. So after you obviously press it, we need to press the tofu to get as much liquid out as possible. This is going to create a crispier crust on the outside. So the more liquid you press, the crispier it's going to be. So you do need to make sure that you follow the instructions if you're cooking with tofu in your instruction sheet about pressing. And then once it's pressed, you can cube it, toss it in the cornstarch, and then do this same thing. You cook it on one side, flip it, brown it, and it'll get nice and crispy for you. So again, and let it lie, let it be in the pan, don't move it around too much so that it can really brown nicely. So this is looking really good. And really the other thing too is to not overcook your chicken. So this is chicken breast. It's very lean. It doesn't take a long time to cook, especially when it is cubed. And what we're gonna do is we're actually going to transfer it into a bowl or a dish or something, and then cover it until we add it back to the pan later on. So it's going to continue to cook, remember, just because we remove it from the heat doesn't automatically stop the cooking. It's still going to cook slightly. And really the key is to take it off of the heat and put it into the bowl just right before it's done. And then that way it'll finish really nice and slowly and it won't be overcooked. So this is perfect. I don't see any pink anywhere. It still looks really juicy, which is great, and it's browned on both sides. So we're gonna do that. I'm just gonna use a plate to cover this up, and it's ready to go. We're just gonna set it off to the side until we come back to it. So from here, we're gonna keep everything the same in the pan. Any like juices or any leftover oil, keep in there. We're gonna add the rest of the oil, and then we're gonna add in all of our veggies. Beautiful. Just give everything kind of a nice toss. You can give it a flip so that everything gets coated and that oil is nice and shiny. And then we're just gonna let this go. I want to get a little brown in the outside of the veggies because it gives flavor. And the great thing about this too is that I'm a firm believer in not overcooking your vegetables, really not overcooking anything. If it's something that you can eat raw, it doesn't need that long to cook. You can eat everything in this pan raw, and so it doesn't need that long to cook. To me, the best cooked vegetables are ones that still have some structure and some bite to them. They're not gonna be rock hard by any means, but they're gonna be cooked just perfectly. So they're gonna have a little bit of crunch and something to bite into. So while the veggies cook, again, adjust the heat as necessary. My heat control is right under here, so when I reach under here, that's what I'm doing. I'm adjusting the heat as necessary, and really I'm listening to my pan. I want a nice gentle simmer here, or saute. So what I love about stir fries, things like this. So I'm gonna prep before I get ahead of myself, I'm gonna prep the aromatics here. We're gonna do some garlic and ginger, which is really just, you gotta have these guys for a good stir fry, no matter what you're doing. And so I'm just gonna kind of chop off some of the gnarly pieces of this ginger, and then I'm gonna grate it. You can chop your ginger. I just find that it's easier to grate because it's pretty fibrous. Just watch your fingers. But the thing that I love about stir fries is really, and what I do in mine is to make them really a nice one pot dish, is they follow kind of the same pattern. They follow the same structure. So it's really always like, you cook your protein first, you take it out of the pan, you add in the veggies, add in the aromatics, add in the sauce, add back the protein, and then any like extra things, and then you have your stir fry. That's the kind of recipe or structure that I follow when I'm making really any type of stir fry. It's always brown the protein, take it out, cook the veg, aromatics, add the sauce, add the protein back in, and then kind of simmer everything for a bit until the sauce thickens and everything is coated. It's done. And once you have that formula, you can really make any stir fry you want, whether it's like shrimp and asparagus, or you know, beef and broccoli. It's just quick. And the key to a good stir fry too is just having everything prepped and ready to go beforehand. Mise en place is really, really important for stir fries because it happens so quickly. And you can stir fry in really any pan that conducts heat really well. I love these eyeless pans. I use them all the time because they really conduct heat just beautifully, and they create even heat throughout. Another good, actually a good pan to cook stir fries in are cast iron skillets, well-seasoned cast iron skillets, because they can hold heat and they can get really hot. And that's kind of key to a good stir fry. So that brown on the outside cooks it quickly. All right, mincing up the garlic. So I'm gonna give my veggies a toss. I should be getting a little bit of a brown on pieces here, and I sure am. I can see little brown spots on the onion. Do you notice I haven't touched this? I haven't done anything to this. I haven't touched it. Since I added to the pan and gave it a shake, I have not touched it. And that will allow some browning to happen on the outside, okay? So don't feel the need to fuss with it too much. Just let it lie, leave it be. Let it do its thing while you mince and grate your ginger and garlic. So you'll know the veggies are done when they are slightly softened and browned. Again, we don't want to cook them too long, so we're gonna be here for probably about 5 minutes or so, just letting the veg do their thing. And really, we're gonna have them that we're not cooking them down fully right here at this point in time. What we want is, since nothing else is in the pan, since no liquid is in the pan, nothing else is getting in the way, we're gonna give them that good brown. So we have to do that first before we add anything else. Otherwise, we're not gonna get a brown on the outside because there'll be too much liquid in the pan. They won't be able to touch the bottom and get as much good contact with the heat. Beautiful. Those look so good. It smells amazing. I could eat it just like this right now. Okay, everything else is pretty much bing, bang, boom. So after you brown your veggies, we're just going to assemble this really quickly. So I'm gonna give this like another minute or so, and then we will continue on. Okay, I've got a nice slight brown on all of my veg. They're looking like they're softening up just slightly. So now it's time to add the aromatics. We're gonna add the garlic and the ginger. We're gonna toss those in, give them a shimmy shake. Get everything tossed really beautifully, and then let that cook for just about 30 seconds. We just want the heat to gently coax all of that beautiful smell and taste out of the garlic and ginger, start to activate them, all these chemical reactions happening to make them taste and smell so, so good. So next, we have our sauce that we're gonna add. And before we add our sauce, I kinda wanna crank up the heat just a little bit. So we have our sauce 1, sauce 2, and sauce 3. They're separated into 3 cups because I couldn't fit them all into one. But they all go together. So this one is going to be your pineapple juice, which is sweet, the rice vinegar, which is sour, and then some soy sauce, also a little bit sour, gives us some nice salty taste. And then in this one we have just a little bit of water and some sesame oil. And then in here we have our thickener, which is the cornstarch, and the brown sugar, which gives us a little bit more sweetness. So you think the pineapple juice would be fine, and like it's got a little, you know, sour punch to it. So we need a little bit of brown sugar to just kind of bring it to that level of sweet and sour that we want. Okay, so I'm gonna crank up the heat just slightly here. Everything's looking good. We're gonna add sauce 1, part 2, and part 3 right in there. So break up your chunks of brown sugar. Once they hit the heat, they'll just melt right away. So we're just gonna kind of toss that, make sure everything is coated. Everything is stirred, make sure everything is stirred in, really. We do want to increase the heat because we want to bring this to a bubble. That's how it's going to thicken. The cornstarch, when it reacts with the heat and the liquid, it will start to thicken. So from here, we can add the rest of, or we can add back the chicken and any accumulated juice. And then our pineapple chunks, okay? That's the final piece of the puzzle right there. And then we're just gonna toss this. You guys, when this sauce hits the pan, oh my gosh, does it smell so stinking good. So we're just gonna toss everything in the sauce. And I like to kind of simmer everything in the sauce for just a couple minutes to just all get, you know, get to know one another in the pan. Everybody just got introduced. We need to give them a little time, all right? So just a gentle simmer here. And then guess what? Dinner's done. Can you believe it? So fast. So stinking fast. I love it. And this is a 2-person. It makes a good deal of food, makes a good amount of food, I feel like. And this is great as leftovers. So, so good. Just like Chinese takeout, you know, it was kind of as good as leftovers. Same thing. So good as leftovers. So this could not be easier. I feel like, I think kiddos would like this. At least my nephews would like this, I feel like. So anyway, that is it. This is my sweet and sour chicken. Really, really easy. Comes together super fast. You can do this again. Like, you can make this on your own. I feel like it's very, very easy. A lot of the stuff are pantry staples, I imagine. Yeah, really good. I hope you guys enjoy it. If you're not eating this, I hope you're eating something else as equally as delicious. And thank you guys so much for taking the time to join me today for this delicious recipe. Remember, you can always request this if you're not here, you're not in town in the Champaign-Urbana area, or maybe you weren't able to get a meal kit and you want to try out this recipe. Simply shoot me an email and I'd be glad to send you a PDF copy of my instruction sheet with pictures and instructions and the recipe. Thank you guys so much. I'll see you guys next time.